Is this my worst idea yet? Hi there, Chris from Good Enough Scenery, and I decided it'd be a great idea to ruin a building by dropping a weight plate on it. So whether you want to make a nice, simple looking building, or whether you want to ruin one, this is the video for you. Let's find out if it's the best way, or whether it's just pure stupidity.
So this starts with 6 pieces. It starts with this one here, which is about 20 by 10, which will be the base. It's going to have 2 long sides and 2 short sides, like every good rectangle should. And this is 20 by 10, and these are 10 by 10. So they will fit perfect on there, and then we're going to do some weaving on the corners. And then finally there's this piece here, which I've already done some markings on because it was from another piece. This is 18 by 8, so it's a centimetre off each side. What's happened is I've done a grid pan on it, and I've rolled it with some tin foil and then put some wash on it just to make it look like it does there. Now for the base, I'm going to do nothing at all because it's literally just the base, not even going to get seen properly, but who knows what's going to happen once I drop a massive weight plate on it. The rest of it, I'm going to do a very basic brick pattern because I don't want to do it this huge amount of effort and then it be completely destroyed and I can't use it, so we'll do a decent amount of effort, a good enough amount of effort should we say, and take it from there. So to begin with, I'm just going to get my arch creating tool, but I'm not going to cut this out, I'm just going to use it as a thing to draw. So there's going to be that. I'll probably put some windows in a couple of places, but outside of this it's just going to be brick pattern. So these bricks are going to be 1 centimetre high. I'm going to mark at every centimetre. I am taking my time to be accurate with this. Same on the other edge. So every 1 centimetre is going to put a mark, and then I will be joining these up. Okay, with those marks drawn, I'm now going to draw a line between on here. Anywho, 3 damage there. So now I'm going to join these up, missing out the doorway. So I'm going to draw up to the doorway, stop, and then carry on the other side. And I'm going to do that all the way up to the top. Okay, with that done, I am now going to do some bricks which are going to be 2 centimetres long. So I'm going to just start by marking out the bottom ones using my grid here on the mat just to do the bottom layer, and I'm not trying to be perfect on this because like I said this is going to get destroyed, so let's not waste too much time on it. You know, let's do a good job. So there, I'm going to do every other line so we end up with our brick weave. You can of course do this with a biro straight away. What I like to do is do it using a knife first of all, and then widening the lines with a biro. I think you get a better level of accuracy doing it that way. And now I'm going to do I'm going to find the midpoint for the other lines, much like you would have seen in bricks in real life, and kind of looks nice and interesting and broken already. Okay, now at the top I'm going to extend this line over the other ones apart from the top layer. So what I'll do for this is extend the top layer around on each side and then join that up. I can finish these bricks off by just continuing the lines over like that. Then I'm going to take my biro and just draw along these lines. So I'm going to start with these horizontal ones and then move into the vertical ones. And now we can do the vertical ones. And you can either just do them straight up and down like I'm doing here, or if you want to on a few of them you can kind of round off the corners if you want it to look a bit more worn or a bit more rounded. Okay, something like that. And then the top, this back bit here. So, okay, now with those done, we move on to the doorway itself. Press this in again just to get the bricks which are half the height of this. So I'm just going to draw a line with the knife here, which nice fresh blade, and so it's going along like this. As I come up to the curve, I'm just going to rotate it slightly. Essentially I'm eyeballing where half a centimetre might be. It will be good enough. Scenery, to the other side, and then there's a kind of line which you will definitely not be able to see on camera, which I'm going to score along this door shape. And as before, we can just slightly more gently just prise these gaps open a little bit more. Now for the door is going to be made out of wood. I'm just going to score some vertical lines down there to start with, not thinking too much about how wide they are, but kind of going for a fairly uniform thing. So then I'm going to gently widen these as well, but not a lot. And then finally I've got my wire brush here. I'm going to pull this down through, and that's going to create a wood texture type effect, which particularly when painted will make it look entirely different. Now, by luck rather than judgment, I managed to draw one directly down the centre, and I am going to widen that a lot more. So that's just pushing down a lot harder. That I might just do the outside one as well, just a bit harder, just to make it feel more like those are separate pieces rather than just one bit of foam. And finally, you're going to take some tin foil, which has been rolled up to a ball, and because of the foam compresses and the texture on this, it creates a really nice rocky type texture on, or stone type texture on these bricks. So not pressing too hard, just kind of rolling it over. The harder you do it, the more texture you'll get, but the flatter the bricks will be, like that. And obviously doing a little bit on the archway, but not doing too much. I'm going to go across the top and then the back as well. That is one side of it very nearly finished. So all the brick detail has been scored in, so that's looking decent, but we need to work out where we're going to cut the teeth out of so that they can interlock together, because that's how I want to do it. So there's a number of different ways you can do it. Doing interlocking is the way that looks the best. Alternatively, you can cut it off at 45 degrees and have them go together, but that never looks perfect without some extra filler work. Or you can have it just butting up against like that, but then you end up with a line there like that. Now, minor problem with this one where it was pre-cut slightly, so this means it isn't going to be a full centimetre that needs to be cut off. So instead what I'm going to do is going to mark a line on the inside here, and that is where we will end up cutting for that one. And then we need to do the same for this way, and that's going to be pretty close to a full centimetre, but mark down like that. Now from here, make sure that we cut out the right bricks. We want them to be interlocking. So the long bricks are the ones we want to leave. I'm going to make sure and double check this throughout the whole thing just to make sure I get it right. So that one's sticking out, so this one is going to be cut off. So to start with, I'm going to cut down here. Got a nice fresh blade on this knife, so we're now going to cut through nicely, and then just cut that tooth off there like that. And then the hope is that when we line that up, match absolutely perfectly. So that is going to be good. We want to cut here. Much better to go and go through it a few times to get the cut accurate rather than try and cut it all through once and maybe doing an inaccurate cut through there like that. And then along this line here, that should be the exact depth that the tooth needs to be at. So when we line that up there, that should be perfect. So I think we can safely say that that is the way to go with it. I'm going to cut through the rest of these. So essentially you're cutting, no matter which ones you're cutting out, you're cutting on every line that's horizontal. It's just the vertical ones you are either cutting or not cutting. So you are going to be cutting that one there, doing alternate ones, this all the way through, and then just going to cut them out like that. See me doing the rest. So nearly done. So hopefully if I line that up like that, you can see that those are going to be absolutely spot on. So we'll do once again we'll do the horizontals first, and I'm kind of drawing an imaginary line on this side to show how far in I need to cut. So moment of truth, and it's nice and tight already, so that's a good sign. I probably couldn't be a whole lot better than that, to be honest. So great stuff. So I'm going to proceed to do exactly the same thing on the other three corners.
So that's all of the corners done.
So one thing I'm going to do, just to sort these out a little bit more, is whilst they are in this position here, I'm just going to roll them just so it all kind of evens up a little bit. I want to add a few windows in, so maybe one on each of the shorter sides and then a couple on this longer side. I'm going to leave that one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this lid and I'm going to put it roughly centrally on the side here, and have the bottom of it be 4 bricks from the top, I think. I'm just going to push this down. That's going to cut most of the way through, and what I'm going to do is where this circle becomes vertical, the line on it, so I'm taking a tangent off of there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this out and see what I think about that as a window size, because that's through enough that we can just push it the rest of the way. And we have a window, which is okay. I'm going to take the knife and just carry the lines of the window through here like this, just so that there's some consistency with the brickwork. But I'm going to cut more windows out and I'll let you know what I've done. So I've decided to do a double window on this edge and just a single window there, and I've left this one without a window. I decided it was going to be best. Paint like I've used on the other Osgiliath buildings, and I'm just going to load this brush up and do a very rough base coat. I'm even going to do the door. The door's going to be painted very differently a bit later on, but as a base coat, I want to get something on there than this. So we're just going to go for that, just for making it nice and simple. So I'm going to do this side. Don't have to worry about the side apart from the top here, and I have to do the end of these bits as well. So these bits have been left overnight, and they are ready for the next stage, or they would be if I hadn't have been really stupid. This is fine. This is fine. This isn't so fine. In my mad dash to get this done before I went to bed last night, I managed to put the windows in upside down, because this is actually the top. So what I am going to do, I think, is I am going to cut out. I cut down here until I meet the line, and I cut across from here until there, and I'm going to cut down here, and then we're going to see what happens. So I think that these are just supposed to be slightly higher up windows. Check which way up your thing is before you cut it out. Trouble I make myself, eh? Apparently I don't learn anything from being impatient, but this should be fine. So I'm going to glue this together whilst some of the paint is still drying, just because I'm impatient. So the way I'm going to glue this, and can I say how wonderfully that goes together? I'm going to put glue in the gaps here on both sides and then slot it together. So I've got my hot glue gun here. I've got this one from Amazon. It's got 2 different heat settings, and that's handy because it means that you can put bits of glue down like this which aren't going to just melt the foam. So when working with foam, I quite often use the lower setting. I put that on there, the right edge, which is this one here. You get a little bit of working time, but not a lot. Okay, just going to squidge it in like that. Any glue that's poking out, I'm going to clean up with my finger, which you may or may not want to do depending on whether you know how hot your glue gun gets. And that's set basically immediately. The other option you have obviously is to set it up on the inside of the teeth. They're not called teeth, I'm absolutely certain of it, but I keep calling them teeth and they look like teeth. So doing it like that and then levering it up and pushing it in might be a better way of doing it, because there's less glue to clear up on the outside. Our final piece is obviously to glue both of those at the same time. We've also got this piece here to slot into there. I'm going to do this one next, and then I'm going to do a whole load of gluing at once on the last one. I've got the height set up here by the line of bricks. Just edge that down slightly, hold that in place. And then I think maybe for ease what I might do, attaching it. So let's do that. I like the trigger action on this glue gun. I will put a link to it in the description if you want to buy exactly this one. I've actually got a bit more control. Unfortunately the windows are the wrong way up, as we have already discussed. Biting me slightly, that's because it's a tight fit. It's a tight fit because we cut it accurately, but we are getting there. Yeah, that's all good. Fell over then. One thing I'm going to paint now is the door. That's dry enough, so I've got some brown paint. Probably isn't how you should paint things, but hey ho. Slap that on. And what I'll probably do is apply a dark wash over that to try and bring out some of this detail a bit more. So literally that quickly on painting the door. That was fun. I'm going to say this is dry enough for our next coat. Colour that shows through, so you can always do another coat as well. So some cheap white paint, loading up the brush and then getting the excess off and just going over the whole thing. Already you can see how much the colour is just changing. Around the door frame as well. And of course going to do on the inside of here and the top as well. So that's what I'm going to do across the whole of the rest of it, and I'll see what it's like in terms of the colour it ends up with. So I'm try and just remove some of these more obvious brush strokes, but happy with how that's coming together. So it's still drying, but that is what that is looking like. We'll see what it looks like once it's dried to see whether we do another coat or not. Get some black wash here. Just going to take a couple of drops of it. Gonna load up our brush and just going to actually put a drop directly on it and see what happens. Surprisingly enough, it makes it darker. See what that dries like as well. With this mostly dry, it's now time to glue it to the base before the main event. So I've got our hot glue gun again, and nothing more complicated than just, it should just be the exact size just to pop on top of it so it can slot into my board a bit later on. Nearly time to drop something heavy on it.
Oh, hi there. You dropped me down on the floor because that's where the floor is. And it's time to actually drop this 5 kilo weight plate onto this perfectly good enough building. The only question remains is how high I drop it from, because I don't want it just to be completely blasted into a million pieces, but I also want to have some impact first time out. So I've got my daughter here. She thinks I should drop it from 1/2 metre. I feel like that's going to completely destroy it in one go, so it's probably going to be a little bit less than that.
Quarter.
1/4 metre?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then work your way up.
So that's like there?
Yeah, then work.
And then do you think flat?
Yeah, then work your way up if it doesn't do anything.
Okay. I might drop it slightly to one side so that more on one side gets crushed than the other.
Do that side.
So some pretty extensive damage straight off the bat. Let's go again. I'm going to go for a slightly smaller weight, and I'm going to do it this way. Okay, let's do one more. Go. Okay, now to decide what we do with this.
That was fun. So this is what we've been left with. So this is basically fall off entirely. This is still attached here, but not so much at the bottom. And then we have all of these pieces. Now, I was hoping that it might collapse and in on itself and have some things in place, but I think motions were fun though. So what am I going to do with it from here? Well, what I'm going to do with it from here is what I would do if this wasn't an experiment with it. I'm going to cut the door out and have the door pieces having collapsed in. But these ones here will need more work done on them. So I'm going to do top few lines of that, and maybe a couple of lines of this. Is I have cut some more chunks off of a few of these. So this was a lot taller, so I've cut pieces off of there. I have done the inside here and here and here and here. I've also taken the door and I have cut it that way. So all these pieces are now dried. Now they're only going to be one way up at any given time, so I don't have to worry about this bit not being painted because I can just make sure it is that way up. Now what I've also done is I have taken these, if you saw me make the piers for my river pieces, you saw I had some of these left over. Now I'm going to break some of these up and have them laid about as if they were rafters holding up the ceiling which will now be collapsed. And with that in mind, I am going to really start cutting up this ceiling. Some of these I'm going to have underneath, and some of them are these I'm going to have on top. Are not going to be used at all in terms of showing them. What we can do is bulk out the lower section. It's actually what we are going to start with. So we've got our roof pieces, we've got our door pieces, we've got our wood pieces, and we have our wall. Start by mending this here. I think a good place to start will be with all of the wall pieces which are still intact. Gentle bead along and along there. Lock that in like this. Making a lot of this up as I go along. I never normally do, obviously. So that's going to go there like that. And where's the final part? It's not. So that's our basics done, and then from here do it however we want to. So start over here. I've got like a lot of stuff would have fallen here. So to start with, I'm going to stick down these bits of roof which actually aren't from the roof officially. And this is essentially for just for other bits to lean up against, just a little something like this. Now I've pretty much already decided that the centre of this is not designed to be playable. The whole point is it's just a collapsed building that's taking up, blocking off some space. So we want the doors to be, would it be doors on top of rubble, or I think a bit of rubble and then the doors on top of them. And there's no real technique I can particularly share about this. It's just chucking it down wherever you think it would look good. And normally that comes from just not thinking about it too much. Is that the bit from there, or is that too tall? It looks like the bit from there, so I feel like maybe having that there would be cool. See how having this big block here means that this can sit on there, take up a huge amount of space, and maybe just a bit down underneath there. And then I think maybe some roof tiles. Let's have a rafter there like that, painting it brown. For the door here like that, I think, and then the other one a bit further in on top of that one, there. And already it's immediately obvious what this is all about. And let's have that along like that, and then maybe.
So this video ended up being incredibly long and blow-by-blow account of literally every single piece that I put down. But I think the most important thing is just to go with the flow, don't overthink it, and just put things down wherever you think they might look cool, because you know that's literally all I've done. Maybe think about building structure, but ultimately just go for it.
Basically done. The final thing here we're going to do is going to add some broken stone type flock to just make this, break this all up a little bit. So anywhere I feel like there might be some broken stone or gravel or whatever, I'm going to put some of this down. It's going to be on the tops, on the places that's along here, and the gaps down here. Another thing to kind of just break up the more solid lines that we've got, and we're seeing here. And this is another great time to cover up any mistakes that you might have made. So if there's any extra hot glue anywhere, you want to cover up anywhere that you forgot to paint. Now use this as your opportunity to cover that up. I'm not putting loads down. In terms of what I'm putting down, I've got this here. So I've seen me make this in previous videos mainly. So we've got some grey stone flock, we've got some sand, and we've coloured some of it. And it all mixes together to be this kind of nice broken up mess here. And the bigger bits I'm going to concentrate on trying to drop a bit lower down, which may or may not stick, and then the other bits more close to the top. And then he sneezed. And these smaller bits I'm just going to sprinkle. How nice to flip it like that and then see what falls out, and then see what you think of it. A bit more there. And to be honest, I don't mind the bigger bits falling out because I'm not sure how much they add to the scene. So I think we'll call that basically finished like that. It needs to be dried, and then let's take a look at it on the board.
And here we have the fully ruined building living its absolute best life on the Osgiliath board. I really like how crowded this is beginning to feel. So most of the things which you're seeing in front of you do have tutorials on the channel somewhere already. Others are coming up soon. So if you've enjoyed this video, then please hit the like button. Please leave any comments that you've got, good or bad. Any constructive criticism is very welcome. And let me know what we'd like to see next, what else we'd like to see on this board, and I'll see if I can actually make that for you. Now, I think the important thing to note is that whilst it was a lot of fun to drop a weight plate onto a building which I'd spent a long time making, ultimately that is not the best way of ruining. Just make it and ruin it manually. Anyway, catch you for another video soon.